allow you to take it away, Susan.
Oh my goodness, she's not gonna see it. Manfred, you asked for an intro, you don't get one. You look at me.
I really don't know who you are.
Who am I? I think I was gonna say I do think I pretty much have met everybody on the phone. Looks like George laptop, perhaps not.
George laptop.
So my cat's gonna walk through here probably a couple of times. So when he does, see, here he comes. That's my mini panther. So I am Susan LaCasse. I'm up here in the beautiful land of the Great Lakes up here in Minnesota. And we are here to talk about the difference between training and teaching and facilitating, and why any of those are different, or why they matter, or why the difference matters. So that's mostly what we're going to spend our time on today. And what I want to do is get you guys going by, we're going to really explore all three of those by using a little structure that I created around different perspectives, some examples, and kind of the implications once you kind of start to think about how different the three actually technically are in terms of definition and what they mean for the people that we work with. So before we do that, we probably should do some kind of an icebreaker. Since we haven't seen each other in a while, just for fun. So let's see here. Let's just do wins. So what I'd like to hear is a personal and a professional win, something in the last week or two that you are either grateful for or went well, a win, and personal, and one personal and one professional win. And I'm just gonna start over here on the left. You know what, I'm gonna have Wendy start because she's been sitting there for a while thinking about this. I know she has. So we'll have you unmute here, Wendy, and give us your win.
Well, believe it or not, this is a personal win. But the personal win is all of the kids have completed their online schooling and we have moved into summer. So yay. So now I can focus on mine instead of being, teacher during the day, as well as, doing what I need to do for the day.
That's fantastic. All right, Nancy.
Nancy Crockett? Ah,
that's you.
That would be me. Let's see, a win. Just today, I just came back from a social distancing lunch and signed a contract with a new client. So that's always an exciting thing. I'm always eager to get out there and go. And it was my first venture out for a lunch with somebody. So it worked out perfectly. Personally, a win. I've been re-landscaping my backyard. It's finally done. So I'm hooked up for hurricane season. Coconuts are down. Fruit Loops are out there, and we're ready to rock and roll.
That is awesome. Thank you. All right, Charles.
Okay, today I've finished a video introduction for my business for LinkedIn, and yesterday I scheduled a reunion with 2 childhood friends on Zoom. Had a good time talking.
Fantastic. That would be wonderful.
Was.
All right, it says Bob over here, Miss Simpson.
Yeah, no, that's not Bob. I should change my name. It's just his account, but whatever. When business-wise, through this whole extravaganza, our clients are doing okay, which is, a great plus for anybody else who's got clients floating around. And personal, just came back from lunch in a restaurant and ate a meal I didn't cook, which is very exciting. To go back to what we initially said, this past week, I've gotten my hair done and my nails and my toes done. So all is good.
Oh, I'm jealous. I haven't been to get my toes done yet. That's next. So yeah, hair done last week, toes done this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Linda. And Andrew?
So we start with a business win. I suppose I got a new client recently, and I'm not quite sure whether it's facilitation, training, or teaching. So I'm interested to find out.
Fantastic.
I think it's a combination of all together.
I imagine it may be.
On a personal, I'd say I've reconnected in the last week. So some old friends from many years ago, used the time to catch up. So that's great.
Awesome. Oh, we got a few more people popping in here. Now I've lost count of where I am. I think I was at Manfred though. We'll go there.
Okay. Professional win, I have finished up a wireframing for a different website, which I'm going to use for virtual group coaching. So we'll see how that shakes out. And personal, I continue to play some golf and tennis and enjoy life and stay healthy.
Fantastic. Thank you. How about Bob?
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just got out of my car. I'm in Queens, New York right now, dropping my daughter off to her apartment. Her boyfriend is parking the car, and so I just got on. So excuse me for being a little bit late.
No problem.
And I guess I heard you're asking people what they've been doing over these last few months.
Looking for wins. So a personal and professional win. Something that's gone good for you the last couple of weeks.
I signed on 2 new clients from Merrill Lynch, and we're going to go through. We're going to start with the IMX instruments beginning tomorrow. And my strategy here is to get these people satisfied, to have some revelations on the phone beginning tomorrow. And from there, take it to some more work, some other people of the 125 advisors in the office. See if we can have this start to grow, get management support to sanction it, and start to, turn the spigot on.
Great. Any personal wins?
Personal wins, I sold my house, and I'm closing on a place in Florida on the 30th. And yeah, that's been another little stress level that's gone, past now. So it's in my rearview mirror.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Kinney.
Yeah, hey, Susan. Yeah, so I picked up a new client, just finalized it this morning. And then on the personal side, my niece just got married on Saturday. So we did one of those distancing weddings, but at least she was able to go ahead and have the ceremony.
Oh, that's
Great.
really nice. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. George.
We had a great mastermind meeting today, our Power Up Mastermind group. We talked about coaching millennials. So we got some good assignments coming out of that. We're looking forward to working on that together. 12 weeks ago, I made a commitment myself that I was going to get in better shape. And I track what I eat every day. And I'm happy to report that in the last 12 weeks, there's only 2 days that I've not done at least 40 minutes of exercise.
Good for you. That's awesome. Kathy Huska.
Hello. I would say doing wins, right? So the last week, I've been working mainly on a lot of marketing, and we launched a new campaign, and it picked up a lot more traction than I was expecting. So I count that as a big win.
That's fantastic.
Contacts, expanding our reach. So that's definitely a win. And then personally, I think my biggest win is I went out, I'm in Colorado, and I have a horse, and I haven't been out in the Rockies with him yet, and I got to finally do that this weekend, and it was amazing. So that was a big win for me.
That's awesome. Doug Brown.
So building off of a couple of themes here for Nancy, I've been spending a lot of time trying to be the old guy who's maintaining their lawn. You get off my lawn, you kids. And a lot of my lawn is probably in the best shape that it's been in years. Similar to what George was talking about, on Saturday morning, I hit the lowest weight that I've been since I've been keeping records that go all the way back to 2014.
Wow.
So I'm pleased about that. And on the professional piece, one of the commitments that I made within the last 30 days was really to increase my LinkedIn presence. And so both in a combination, I've got a whole strategy now in terms of what I'm going to do for articles, and the articles have already been selected and all that kind of good stuff. And now it's literally a matter of kind of just executing it. I'm gonna pass one other real quick suggestion if I can. When I'm on a Zoom call with people that I don't know, for example, like I'm calling in on a New Jersey State Chamber call or an association call, and I notice because of Zoom, there's people that may be remote that never go to meetings, that all of a sudden you're seeing their pictures on the screen the same way I'm looking at all of yours. What I'm doing now is I'm doing a screen grab so that I have names and pictures so that I can increase my LinkedIn connections that way. And the other thing that I do is I click on participants, so you have a link, a list of participants, and I do a series of screen grabs, kind of rotating down the participants list, and so I've picked up a tremendous amount of LinkedIn connections by doing it that way. And I could literally start the message that says, "Hey, it was a pleasure to see you on the blah 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 call, and I'd love to be connected with you." And that's actually turned into some follow-up meetings with, follow-up Zoom call conferences and that kind of stuff. So that's just a quickie in terms of kind of how I'm trying to kind of take that up a click.
Thanks, Doug. That's awesome. All right, Coach Rick, you got a couple of wins for us?
Well, I got at least one that's as fresh as this morning. Brand new CEO. She's only been in the job for 2 weeks. Called me this morning and said, yeah, let's do it. Board approved it. So looks like a long-term coaching engagement with a brand new CEO. So we're looking forward to that. On the personal side, I'm going back to a conversation we had in Slack, and that is the motivation to train for a race that probably isn't going to go. And so most people know that I run a triathlon in August. It's not going to go, but I'm 2 weeks. I've stayed with the training for the first 2 weeks, so that's a win.
Fantastic. All right, we've got lots of people on this call. More than what I thought was going to be, and especially at the beginning when we started doing wins. So we're gonna keep them moving here. The other coach, Rick.
Yes, of course. Hi, Susan. All right, professional win. I have been working on tooling the Peak Performance Group. We actually were able to add it and turn it into an LLC, and we're creating our format of what I call business acceleration system, so we can just take and drop into a business. I've got a friend I'm working with on that, and so that's the professional side. Emerging Leaders Academy is still going. Actually, I leave tomorrow to run 3 classes in person. Finally in person. On a personal win, as you can see in the background, my wife and I have decided that we are going to get out of Dodge for July 4th, and we booked a trip to Cabo San Lucas for 5 days.
Very nice.
We are professionally having fun, and life is good all around in Texas.
Fantastic. Janice.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you today?
I'm good. Hi, everybody. I'm Janice Danzy, pretty new to Trusted Advisors. For a professional win, I haven't signed any clients yet, but I did join a networking group, and I like the women that's there, and I like what's going on with that. So that's good for a professional start. For a personal when I just got my test results back, and I am cancer-free going into my 5th year. So I like those numbers.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. Yeah, everybody's got thumbs up and applauses going on out here. So
thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Steve.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for professional win, I just was in a conversation this morning with a business colleague of mine, and I sent a warm introduction to Wendy up there in my upper left corner here in my gallery view. Have her talk to her. She's interested in coaching certification, and she was looking at organizations, and I wanted to point her to the TA Network Coaching Academy. So if Wendy would be so kind to take that warm introduction and talk to her, that would be wonderful. In terms of a personal win, I guess I just finished. I just did a road bike ride that was about 36 miles and about 2,700 feet in elevation along the San Francisco shoreline, but up into the Berkeley and Oakland Hills. And it was really nice to be outside and on my bike and feeling like I accomplished something.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Did I miss anybody?
Oh, you missed a lot of people. I see Sandy Mitchell down there with a new haircut.
Let's get Alan on here.
Hey, thanks. Good to see everybody here. Professional win, 2 of them real quickly. I start working with a new client Thursday from north of the border. Really cool. I'm very excited about that. And my book is 85% done. It'll be done in the next month. Really excited about that. And on a personal note, I finally got in my car and drove somewhere. I drove into Alexandria, Virginia to see my #1 son. And boy, what a thrill that was, especially since he is a coronavirus survivor.
Wow.
So really cool.
Very cool. Thanks. Who else?
Sandy Mitchell.
Oh, we have a few more joining here. So, okay, Sandy.
Thank you. Hi, Sandy Mitchell. Professional win, I think that over the last 2 weeks, I've led or facilitated or taught a couple of classes for the city of New York, where a little group of us have a contract. One of which was a 9 to 5 Zoom call with the people from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. That's a very long time to be on Zoom with anybody. But it worked well. Anyway, we got through it. It was great. And then another was just sort of generally for New York City employees. Personally, well, unlike Steve, who put in much more energy, I mean, it was a beautiful weekend here in New York City. And I got out into Riverside Park, but basically just to sit and read on a bench in the sun.
Nice. Very good. Let's see. Did we get Tom?
Tom Lemansky is on now.
Tom Lemansky.
You only see his forehead, though.
Oh, I can't
Lower your
see what I'm
camera.
doing. How's that?
There, that's better.
How about if I
Look,
did
quick wins.
So professional wins. Among them, I got paid for a Zoom workshop with the CFA Association of Chicago for 73 people. That is the Certified Financial Advisors Association. And the project initiated, it was supposed to be an in-person presentation, but we, went in to settle in place. And so we moved it, and I got some pretty high ratings, and I got paid, and enhanced my confidence and experience for doing online facilitation or online webinar type stuff.
Awesome. How about a personal win?
So since the pandemic, about 3 weeks into it, my daughter lost her, my daughter's nanny had a baby. They lost their childcare. They have been living here for, this is through last 6 weeks. And I'll likely be here another month, and I will have spent maybe 10% of my granddaughter's life. She's been living under our roof, which wasn't something that anyone planned, but we've kind of bonded, and it's been a wonderful thing.
Fantastic. Thank you. Bertha.
Hi. Professional win. I had been working with this group in Plainfield, New Jersey, and it's a signed contract, paid, and ready to go for next week. So I'm looking forward to working with them Tuesday, Thursday. And personal, kind of like Wendy, this is finals week for a high schooler, a middle schooler, and a 4th grader, and the 3-year-olds running around somewhere. So, so far, so good.
Outstanding. Now I think we had everybody. All right. Did I have one more? We get everybody? I think we got everybody. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I have to close that out. Okay, I don't want to share that part. Let's see, where's my, let me get you guys up here. My, yeah, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Here we go. Can you see that now? Maybe I lost you now.
I'm not seeing anything.
Nope, don't see it yet.
Anything yet? All right, let me try this again. Share my screen. No, it wants to go here, share. There we go.
There you go.
All righty, there we go. So, always little quirky things when we're working on this stuff. All right, so what we want to do is talk a little bit about the difference here between teaching, training, and facilitating. And so I'm going to start out here by just talking about these definitions a little bit. I am planning on having this be some audience participation, so you'll need to pop in and out as we can as we go through, and I'll try to call on people as well. But it's interesting when you start to first take a look at this and really look at what the difference is just in terms of definition. And so when teaching, if you just go on definitions.com or dictionary.com, it tells you that teaching is to impart knowledge or skill, basically to teach somebody something, which is a little different than training, which is about developing habits, thoughts, or behavior by discipline and instruction. And discipline being a key word in that particular definition. And then facilitating, which is to make easier or assist the process of. So I'm looking for you, the first question I have for you, as you look at those three definitions, what are some examples that you can think of in our work where we are either teaching, training, or facilitating? So I'm looking for examples, and I'm going to type a little as you talk. I'm just going to grab keywords, so if I don't get your whole thought, don't worry about it. So chime in. What are some examples of how we either teach, train, or facilitate? Thinking about leading, let's say, a process. Go.
Susan, I'll jump in. Teaching is if you're standing in front of a group and lecturing.
Okay, lecture.
Workshops. Workshops are good examples of teaching, typically because
okay.
They can also be examples of training.
And facilitating.
And facilitation,
well,
yeah.
But the reason I land on training mostly is because unless you get an opportunity to come back, that's where I tend not to think of it as training. And facilitation, you're right, you can combine the facilitation style with teaching in a 4-hour or 2-hour workshop.
The interesting thing about facilitating is if you study actual just pure facilitation, it has more to do with helping a group see their own process, making observations about the process that the group is going through, and then also suggesting that they either, are they ready to speed up or do they need to slow down? And so it's really about being a lot of neutrality in terms of just identifying what process we're going through, where are we in it, do you notice what's happening, looking at that side of things. So if you think about really just assisting the process and thinking about terms that way, would you still put workshops in the facilitating category?
Depending on how focused the workshop was, let's assume 4 hours. It depends on how many topics were introduced during that 4 hours. If it's a singular topic, then yes, I could still see it. Although, again, I tend to land on teaching mostly anyway.
Okay.
How about the goal planning sheets when you're first introducing your group to the goal planning sheets and the way Trusted Advisors affiliates complete goal planning sheets?
Yeah, so which category would you put it in?
I'd say it could be teaching and or training.
What do you guys think?
I like
Do we have a
training.
second?
Training.
Training?
I think it goes in all of
I think the sheet is training. Teaching goal management, though, is training.
But you go back to it, to Alan's point as well.
I look at it as facilitation. The sheet is just the process. I facilitate through the process. I generally do any workshop that I do, I view as a facilitation.
Okay. Awesome. What else you got? Other examples? What do our materials do? How do they fit in?
You can facilitate a strategic plan, getting consensus on a plan.
Great.
Yeah, but I think our materials fall into the teaching category.
Okay. Cool. So we'll come up with more examples as we go. I promise you we will. So if you're looking at teaching, training, or facilitating, and you're looking at it from the perspective of the participant, what is expected of you in a teaching situation as a participant or a learner?
Listen.
Listen and absorb.
Do your work, which means preparation to be ready for any of the sessions.
Okay. What else? You're being taught. I'm sorry?
Clarify your thinking, what's being presented.
Anything else?
Learn.
Learn.
Repeat back.
Learn the knowledge or the skill, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
How about apply?
Does apply happen here?
Is it too early?
Early.
I'm just asking. What do you think?
I'm going with it.
Fair enough. All right. All right. So we listen, we absorb, we prepare, we clarify, we learn, we apply. And so my job is just to be a student, right? And that is literally, so if I have a teacher, then we have a student, and that's how that works. What about for training? What's my job if I am actually being in a training situation? So someone's working with me and they are training me.
Engage.
What does that mean?
I mean, participate. It's an active participation.
Okay.
Hands-on.
Feedback.
Okay. Feedback, hands-on.
Modeled behavior.
So is that is the participant modeling the behavior?
Yes.
Okay. Making sure. All right.
It's experiential.
Right.
Spell it. There you go.
Well, I can spell, sweetheart. Yeah, you don't think I can spell?
Yes, you can.
How is training different from teaching?
It's active. You do something.
You're doing it. Yeah.
Okay. We're developing habits. So as a participant, how am I developing habits? Practice. Yeah, practice, repetition. We talk about repetition all the time. So I might be a student over here. I'm an actor here, right? I'm actually doing the thing that you taught me to do over and over and over again. Discipline is, got to be in here too. Just having the discipline to do it over and over again. All right. Now I'm a participant in facilitating, and a facilitated thing. What is my perspective of my situation if I'm the participant here?
I think you bring more.
Content.
I think you bring more of yourself to the process.
Okay. Why would that be? Why would we bring more of myself to the process in facilitating rather than teaching or training?
Because facilitating by its own nature requires that the participants bring more to the table, so to speak.
Okay. What more am I bringing?
Your thoughts, your behaviors, your assumptions, all of those things.
Engagement.
I think you're bringing more of the content.
Trying to understand the group as well as yourself.
Keep going. What else?
I guess with understanding the group, you're understanding their, you know, I lost the word, their I don't know, their culture or their dynamics is what I'm looking for.
Okay. So it's a group dynamic. Yep. All right.
Changing the process.
I didn't hear that. Say that again, please.
Changing the existing process.
Could be. All right.
You also have more ownership.
There's an outcome here, right? That we're owning, that we're going for when we're facilitating to an outcome, to something the group is trying to achieve together. It's a little different when we're talking about real pure facilitation. So yeah. So let's go on to the perspective of the group leader, and we'll kind of work our way left to right again. So if you are the person and you are the person doing the teaching, what is your perspective here? What are you thinking about? Who are you in this role?
Delivering.
I'm the boss.
Delivering?
Clarity.
Okay.
One-way communication.
To an extent.
Yeah, you're the teacher.
Do
You're
as
the
I say,
expert.
not as I do.
Okay, you're the teacher, you're the expert, right? You are the product of the process.
Illustrate.
Illustrate.
Excite.
Okay. Motivate, encourage, all that stuff. Good. What else are you trying to do?
Enlighten.
Okay, we can throw that enlighten in there. I was going to say about evaluate. How do we figure out, like, if I'm imparting some kind of knowledge or skill, I want to make sure you're actually, well, learning it, right? So we have to be the evaluator also. Okay, anything else?
You said it already. I was thinking testing, right?
Yep. Evaluate and test. Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So what's different for training? You're going there to train, help someone train. What are you doing different?
Interactive.
Okay. Versus our one-way communication.
Right. Which, I mean, in all honesty, most teachers, as a teacher in a classroom, you don't necessarily only do one-way communication, but
you can definitely feel that way though, right? When someone's just teaching you something, you can, feel like it's just one-way mode in kind of thing.
Yeah.
Demonstrate.
Demonstrate.
Yep. Practice.
Anybody have a trainer? A fitness trainer? Some of you guys have been, losing lots of weight and doing stuff. You're working with your your wall or whatever else. Anybody ever work with a trainer? What does a trainer do?
Encourage.
Motivate.
Guidance.
Coaching.
Provide lots of feedback.
Lots and lots of feedback, right?
Correction as well. That's part of feedback.
Correction. Yep. I think you want me.
Not just information, but also tools to use to continue.
Provides more tools. Great. So they watch a lot too. So at least mine does. Watches me work and cheers me on and, you know, tells me to keep going and demands more of me and all those things, right? So there's a lot of watching, a lot of checking up on, you know, that kind of thing. There's a way that when we're training, I think training is one of those ones as a group leader or as the person who's doing the standing in the front of the room or standing with your participant. I think this one's one of the hardest ones to do because we're dealing with repetition. And we tend to think that, you know, we don't have to bear witness to that. And yet that's what a lot of trainers, when you think trainers and other kinds of areas, that's what we do. So it's really holding the space for practice, 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 practice over and over and over again. So yeah, in order to build a new habit, right? So they bear, I'm going to say they bear witness as we create new habits. So that's a different thing. So which leads me to facilitating. So as a group leader, if you are a facilitator, actually doing the observations and that kind of stuff, I'll just put observation in since I said it out loud. Tell me more about the facilitator.
Asking questions.
Presenting models or representations of some sort.
Okay.
But I also think anything that's in the training box belongs over in the facilitating box also.
So all of this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that called?
Gonna slow the group down. Speed them up.
Challenge group thinking.
Mm. Yeah. Nice. What else?
It's also helping the group come to consensus or decisions or ways to move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, helping them get unstuck, right? I'm going to call just unstuck up here. Groups get stuck or they get bogged down or they get in a spin cycle and you got to help them get out of that stuff, right? Good. What else?
Facilitator does not have an agenda.
Yeah, who has the agenda when you're facilitating?
Whoever hired you.
Okay. Could be.
The group has the agenda.
The group.
I got it right. I got it right.
Yeah, so sometimes, so this is where I ran into interesting things back when I was doing kind of, well, we're facilitating a Kaizen, right? Really a process improvement situation. And so not only were we literally worked with the group to help them set the agenda, but getting them to accept the agenda was part of the facilitation. So it makes it a little bit different when it's sort of their agenda, but they have to buy into the agenda. So in some cases, it's gaining some buy-in. What else about facilitating makes it different than training or teaching?
Building collaboration. Okay.
Which is just another way of communicating and solving problems. Collaboration, not, I missed an A there. Okay.
And outcomes.
What do you mean?
when you're facilitating a group, you want them to have the outcomes that they expect from doing the work.
You're helping them get them. Okay, great. Good. What else? Come on, you're all facilitators. What else is different about it?
Analogies, or I guess it goes back with models and representations, but I don't know.
Okay, sharing analogies. Good, okay.
I think that when you're teaching or training, your measure is that they learn what you're teaching or training them. And while outcomes are important in facilitation, the dynamics of the group, which aren't as easily measured, are just as important of how people interact with each other. So you have to somehow control the group dynamic and make it productive.
I think in facilitating, you also have to be actively listening, and you can't just be be there to lead that effort. You have to be taking in and listening what the group is talking about.
I'm going to say on multiple levels. I'm going to add that in there. In the coaching academy, we learn about 3 levels of learning, and when you are facilitating, you are definitely listening at all 3 levels. So you're listening for what's actually being said in the room. You're listening for the stuff that's not being said in the room. You're also listening for what's happening around the room that could be creating or contributing to whatever's happening or not happening in the room, right? So there's a lot of listening to be done to the energy of things, and holding the space is another one I'll put on here. Holding the space, or making it what I like to call psychologically safe for people to participate openly in that kind of a situation, a little differently than what you do in teaching and training. Awesome.
To that point, I think they will be teaching you as the facilitators. The facilitators learning from the group.
Awesome. Okay, now I've forgotten how to type. Very good. What else we got? Anything else? All right, so question. What do you think you do best at? Are you best at teaching? Are you best at training, or best at facilitating? And why? Anybody? Best and or most comfortable?
Mine happens to be facilitating, because my energy, in order to provide the best environment, comes from the group. And for me, facilitating involves a lot more interaction and a lot more discussion. And so facilitating is a real, it's much more my style. I don't do well at all in teaching.
Okay. Others? Alan?
I am probably best at teaching, but I don't want to be.
Okay.
Because I think that when we see the overlap here, I think that aspiring to facilitate the teaching experience and aspiring to facilitate the training experience will yield better results, because that means that the participant is buying in. So I really would aspire that even when I'm teaching and training, to be a facilitator, so that I'm facilitating the learning or I'm facilitating the training.
Thank you. That was very honest.
Yeah. I think I'm a good trainer, but I, like Nancy, and I don't know if it has to do with being extroverted, but I get my energy from facilitating when there's a whole group dynamic going on and one thing feeds off the other. I mean, that's when, I really get energized by that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll speak.
Thanks, Alan.
Good, Alan.
You're welcome. You know, well, I'm an introvert, and I think I'm best at facilitating. And you know, I wrote an article on this that I believe introverts are the best facilitators, because what you're doing is you're letting others take control and subjugating your own thought process to help them create the best process for them. In teaching and training, you're coming to the table with the process, with a way to do things. Facilitating is helping someone else create their best way. So it's really being able to come to the space where you let them do that, and that takes your own control away. Or the more you can take your own control away, the easier it'll be for the group to create their path.
Nice. All right, which ones do you think we're worst at?
Depends on the topic.
Okay. Say more.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an expert on something, all three of these are pretty easy. But if you're not, facilitating's, you know, good if you're not an expert. But training or teaching is very hard if you're not an expert on the topic.
Actually, I've, you know, had some pretty horrible, very highly expert teachers, but they were experts, but they were horrible teachers. So might be a requirement, but it may not be the only thing that goes along with that. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think for most of us, we do all three in even at the same time. You sort of switch modes in the same group. And that's, you know, it's keeping your ear to the ground as to see what's needed. You need to impart some knowledge at some point, in which case you make a certain kind of presentation and put that through. You know, are you working with them that they're practicing it, or are you throwing out a few things and letting them run with it to where they want to go? And I think we switch back and forth.
Okay. Is there any particular one you're more comfortable with or less comfortable with?
Well, I'm not an introvert, so, but to me, facilitation, I mean, while I think it helps to be an expert, I can learn something. I can feel comfortable about going and teaching anything. You know, give me some time to read about it and I can go teach it. Or I can train somebody on something. Give me some time. To me, you know, the kicker is facilitating, because you know, that's a skill in of itself that to me isn't as defined. So being someone that likes to stand in front of a group of people and talk, you know, tell me I got to teach, or tell me I got to train, and that my week.
No, just a little bit here.
I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say something. I'm not sure if he's done.
Just go ahead and hop in. We'll get him back.
Okay.
He's frozen right now.
George, you're frozen.
I just wanted to say that I am the worst at teaching. Pretty much good at facilitating, because sometimes when you're facilitating, you don't bring in your biases or your agenda. You teach or you facilitate from the materials that's there. And sometimes when you're teaching, or you have to, when you bring in those you know, those agendas that you have personally, sometimes they come out when you're teaching and when you're coaching, but less when you're facilitating.
Susan, but going back to something that Charles said, I think that you can facilitate on a subject that you might not be an expert in, because you're playing off what's being said by the group, and one of the main purposes of facilitation is to ask questions. have you thought about, or what do you think about, or that kind of thing. So I think, I don't want to say fake it, but you can work your way through facilitation even if you're not an expert on that particular thing. Where if you're teaching or training, if you don't know whereof you speak, you are screwed.
Yeah, for sure. Right? All right, good.
I would have to agree with that statement. Look at me. I'm not an expert in nothing, and I facilitate the heck out of stuff. And I hope you can hear me. I'm standing because my legs hurt. But I also started the training and being like Alan, an introvert like Alan, being in front of a class. It does struggle when you're not an expert in a specific topic. So I think facilitation, as Linda said, you can kind of bluff your way through by just asking questions.
Nice. So let's back it up and talk about the participants again here. Where do you think the participants lie here in terms of what they, maybe do best or are most comfortable with, or that kind of idea?
Well, the easiest is being in a teaching situation because you can just sort of sit there.
Okay.
You don't have to come up with as much stuff yourself.
Right.
Doesn't mean they necessarily like it, but I mean, it's less demanding in some ways.
Yeah.
It's in the same vein, though, facilitating, you could hide behind other people's participation.
But if you're a good facilitator, you won't let that happen.
Exactly.
Okay.
You'll call them if you got somebody's trying to hide in the back of the room. You can call on them and involve them and not let them hide.
I don't know if it's the easiest or if they like it the most, but I think where they get the best bang for the buck and where they really internalize it is the facilitating.
Absolutely.
Because they're taking ownership of it.
Right.
Yeah. And they feel like they're part of whatever the outcome of that particular thing was.
Yep.
Okay. Great. What about this training thing in the middle?
I think training's the most onerous on the participant because usually in a training situation, you're training them on a skill that they're going to have to use down the road. So I don't think that there's much escaping. We've talked about how you can, easiest is teaching and how you can hide behind others and facilitating. And training, you need to walk away with that skill because more often than not, you're being trained on something you're going to have to use down the road.
Okay.
And isn't training sort of finite? I mean, training followed by coaching seems to be the holy grail to get those habits to work in place and relate them to real life examples. But I notice coaching is not part of this exercise.
We put in a training.
It's under
Yeah, we
training.
did. We kind of threw coaching in the training category. I think what's interesting for me about the training piece, at least what I see out there, maybe you guys can tell me if you're seeing the same thing, is that training feels like hounding people. So especially in our work that I want you to be doing, say, your affirmations every day. That's training your brain. And that getting into those kinds of habits, getting triggers set up to do things on a daily basis, setting up structure to make things happen is where my clients, and also interestingly enough, where I have struggled the most. Anybody else have that experience?
I think training requires the participant to find some self-motivation. They've got to find their own reason for learning it.
Yeah. If we talk about the training aspect of working with a client, and a lot of my work is one-on-one, if we're going through a process and I ask them to do something like fill out the time management sheet for a week, and and they come back and they haven't done it, there's the part of my brain that goes, why not? Why not? I told you to do that. You know how to do that, so why didn't you do it? So I think that you're right. When we tell, if we're trying to get them to do something, I think, yeah, that's the most difficult, because when it doesn't happen, you get unhappy.
I think it's interesting that I think, you know, if we're honest, we sort of lean toward wanting to facilitate and wanting to just be asking questions and guiding people through things. And yet, all three of these are part of what we have to do if we're going to really take advantage of all aspects of what our process teaches us. So there's some knowledge that has to be imparted, as you know, and we think about our text and the way we go back through and kind of then, you know, have discussions about that. And I know that there are certain aspects that are really important to me that people actually put in their brains, right? Get into their knowledge and their habits of thinking, that we're training their brain related to these things, along with things like setting goals and putting dashboards together and using structure and getting that discipline put into play. You don't always get all that discipline put into play through that facilitating discussion. So really all three are necessary for the full TAN experience, right? To really get everything, to help your client get everything out of it, I think we have to figure out how to do all three. And so coming back, really making training the repetitive part of your process. I think that's the easiest part of the facilitation to throw out, because you feel like you're doing that again and we're repeating that again and we're repeating that again. And yet all of that repeating is such a huge piece of that. So, and I'll add that to my list here of implications, is that the repetitive nature of this is actually, this is how we learn, right? One of the major ways. And so don't actually discard some of the repetitive stuff in service of all the new fun, shiny stuff, because we lose a lot in translation. What other implications might you see of really understanding these three topics a little differently? And I'll put the definitions back up here.
Most clients, at least the way I market myself, is I'm marketing a change in behavior, change in results. And you can't do that with just facilitation.
Yeah, we're talking behavior change, right? Behavior is habits of thinking, first and foremost, which we know. So absolutely have to have that train your brain section. Yeah, what else? Other implications? Can you rely on facilitation too much?
Well, I think the key of it is being conscious of what you need to be doing when for maximum impact. You can't just sort of settle into one thing. You know, you can't be in teaching mode all the time if you expect other types of results than that they learn something of knowledge or about a skill. I mean, if you want them to have incorporated it, you have to have training aspects to it. And if the key is to get them as a group to move forward with something, you need to be doing the facilitation part. So you need to move back and forth at the right moments.
Very good. So yeah, I think this is one of those chicken or egg kinds of conversations to me. To be very honest, that I think they're really important to understand all three, and I do believe we're constantly moving back and forth between them. I think the easiest one to forget about is the training piece, that we educate people and we facilitate and ask them questions and hope for some self-awareness. But if we really are going for behavior change, a change in thinking, that's going to lead to a change in results. The training component has to be there, and it's sort of sandwiched here in between the two. And again, from my just working with leaders, I find that the leaders I work with are also most uncomfortable with the part about the training. I think students are most uncomfortable with the training part. If you've ever met a student who says, well, I've done that, you know, I've done that once, I know it now. You know, I've got that figured out, then you know what I mean. So, and I've had a few of those now. And yet they really don't know. They don't have the rigor and the discipline and the putting together of using the structure, doing the work, and actually developing those habits. So I think the implications are interesting, and leave you with that to consider as you are now. Your job as you leave here is in your next opportunity where you're working with a client. Pay attention to whether you're teaching, whether what you're doing is now requiring training, or if we are actually really focused on facilitating based on the outcome that you're going for, whether we're talking about giving them some kind of skill, really changing behavior with a new habit, or actually coming to some kind of outcome of a facilitated session. And working.
And I think from a client point of view, I mean, I just had an instance working with a client where I was facilitating, and all of a sudden this light bulb went on in my head that says, wait a minute, what this person really needs at this moment in time is a little bit of teaching and then some training and then go back to facilitation. And so Sandy, her statement about knowing when to be what, I think it's spot on.
All right. Awesome. We are at 3:01, I see.
Yes. I wanted to thank you. I see everybody that we've got a bunch of folks that are signing off. So I want to thank you for taking your time today, Susan, and instilling us some good information on teaching, training, and facilitating.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see everybody.
And Susan, it was lovely to see your face.
Thank you.
Have missed you.
I've missed you guys too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.